Fear of Rain is a 2021 American thriller drama movie that follows a schizophrenic girl's journey to fight her demons and save a young kidnapped girl's life. The movie starts with a hallucination of a man following a girl while the girl is trying to run away from him but was caught, tied up, and buried. The young girl, whose name is Rain, was seen in the hospital, tied up to the bed and injected with anesthesia, which helped her calm down. The doctors inform her parents, John and Michelle, about her schizophrenia and that it can never be cured. The father tries to argue, demanding for a way it could be cured, but was stopped when he saw his daughter wake up. Her therapist tries to find answers for the reason for her episodes, where she reveals to the therapist that she has not been taking her medications for a while, as it affects her ability to paint. The therapist also informs her about the fact that the state would institutionalize her if the incident happens again in the future. Thinking it was unfair, she walks away. On returning home, she enters her room to see the mess she had created and recalls all her past actions, thus feeling disheartened. Her parents are both very supportive and loving but are drawing in their own guilt and sorrow. On returning back to school, Rain drops her pills and feels the stare of everyone around her. She thought her friends could be her safe haven, but they turned out to be a nightmare as Rain was teased because of her illness. Disappointed, Rain isolated herself, but the new guy Caleb starts to talk to her. He wins her heart through tarot cards and the duo starts to hang out together. While returning home, she hallucinates, which scares her, and she decides to have her medicine. That night was the first time she saw a young girl in the attic window of her neighbor's house. At the same time, her mother entered her room to check on her. She asked her mother about the voices in order to check whether it was real or just another hallucination. Her mother declined and started to talk about her day. After talking for a while, Rain decided to call it a day and got ready for bed. The school next day was as usual, full of betrayal and disown, but the highlight was the talk with Caleb. She could feel herself start to get comfortable with him. That night, Rain woke up startled and started to chant, "It's not real." Her parents rushed to her side immediately. She told them she had a bad dream and that she saw her neighbor, Miss McConnell, who is also her teacher, dance with a young girl who was crying for help. In a span of a second, she was snatched away from her view, thinking it was another one of her hallucinations. They brushed it off and her mother decided to sleep in her room to make her feel protected and safe. The night passed. The next day, Rain and her dad decided to check Miss McConnell's attic. While talking to Miss McConnell and simultaneously checking the attic, John tells Miss McConnell about what Rain saw yesterday. Miss McConnell laughed lightly. While looking at the attic, Rain found a silhouette of a young person. Thinking it's the girl she saw last night, she pushes the curtains to the side only to get startled and realize it's a mannequin. They found nothing, but Rain was not convinced, leading to a heated argument between John and Rain. Tears and feelings filled up their conversation and John pleaded with Rain to stay away from Miss McConnell's house. John was scared of the fact that the state would take his daughter away from him, and that thought spread chills in his body. While waiting for her call at the therapist's office, Rain Googles missing young girls in Florida and goes through the reports. While talking to her therapist and sharing yesterday's happenings, Dr. Ellen warns her of the fact that her acquisitions on Miss McConnell can have serious consequences. In school, Rain starts to panic with a room full of people and runs away. There, she sees a car and some cops around her campus and believes Miss McConnell called on her. These elements did not help her in her panic state, and in order to calm down, she tells Caleb what she saw and he trusts her. The duo decided to check Miss McConnell's house again and broke into her house successfully. As soon as they found a way to open a suspicious locked door, the front door opened, announcing Miss McConnell's arrival. Caleb lashed out at Rain as they were almost caught by Miss McConnell. Rain, disheartened, returns home. She tries to divert her mind, but all she could think of was the young girl in Miss McConnell's house. The next day, Rain and Caleb decide to bunk lectures. They enjoy the day together and it can be said that love is in the air. After having fun, things get serious, as they start to search for a missing persons case on a computer in a bookstore. After a good span of time in the search, they find a girl named Malia who looks like the girl Rain saw that day. Things started to get real as what Rain saw that night was not just one of her episodes or a hallucination. It was real. Overjoyed and ecstatic, she decided to call the girl's parents, but Caleb stopped her, saying they needed more proof. Caleb starts to learn about Rain's illness as she starts to open up to him. When Rain returns home, she finds her room decorated and new, courtesy of her dad. The Rain had another nightmare that night which resulted in her being wide awake. Going through the house, she finds her mother crying in her room. While consoling her, Michelle questions Caleb's existence. The next day, Rain thinks Caleb is just a part of her imagination and starts to avoid him, leaving Caleb heartbroken. At night, Caleb enters Rain's room through her window and confesses the truth. Caleb confessed to Rain, and when Rain was about to answer, they heard a scream from the next door house. Startled, they rush towards the house and try ways to enter the house. They attempt to search Miss McConnell, but she calls the police when she hears the window broken. John was met by 2 police officers and an angered Miss McConnell on his door, wherein she tells him about his daughter's wrongdoings and her vandalizing the property. Adding to it, she feels threatened about the acquisitions and how it could end her career. unaware of it. John was devastated, and enraged John confronts Rain and keeps justifying her actions. He yells at Rain to take her medicines to avoid these hallucinations. He tries to shove medicine in her mouth, which irritates Rain. In order to taunt him, she shoves several pills into her mouth, which scares John. He commands and forces her to spit it out and slaps her. Everybody in the house was upset and devastated. Caleb tries to talk to Rain about Malia, but Rain just shrugs it off. While staring outside the window, she could see Miss McConnell playing with Malia in the attic. At that moment, Caleb emailed her asking if she was okay. Rain pleads with him to come over. When Caleb reaches her house, Rain informs him that she was going into the house to save Malia as she feels Miss McConnell would kill her. Now that Rain knows about her, but Caleb calmed her down, and in order to distract her from Malia, they started to play with tarot cards. Just as they were going to kiss each other, Michelle entered the room. Rain introduced Caleb to her mother, but then realized that her mother could see him too, meaning Caleb is not a hallucination. After meeting her mother, Caleb leaves abruptly. Rain has yet another episode when she enters the school and realizes Caleb is not around. She thinks he is just one of her imagination and runs away from school. She tried to call home, but nobody answered. She could only think of one person that could help her, and that is her therapist. On reaching the office, she realizes Dr. Ellen was not in her office. She leaves, and while walking, she reaches the cemetery. There, she saw the exact same statue that she would usually see in her dreams. Scared, she runs home. Once inside, she tries to calm her mind, but to no avail, and ends up having a mental breakdown. Michelle comes to her rescue and calms her down, but Rain lashes out at her by blaming her mother for her illness. She walks inside her room, ready to go next door, but John enters the room. He also reveals the fact that Michelle died 3 years ago, and the person Rain was talking about all this while was just all a part of Rain's imagination. This news leaves Rain completely broken. He told her that he would act in front of her to make her feel less uncomfortable. She now realized why Caleb abruptly ran away from her place last night. When John threatened to call 911, Rain ran away from her place. Thinking the problem lied in Miss McConnell's house, she impulsively broke into her house to further investigate and find proof of Malia. Because of her hallucinations, she could hear Malia pleading and calling for help. Opening a drawer, she grabbed a knife and made her way to the attic. When she was about to touch the knob to open the door, her phone rang, indicating her dad was calling her. Quickly, she shut her phone, and when she was about to put it inside her pocket, she felt someone pass by in the room. Thinking it was Malia, she entered the room without being careful. The attic was full of young girls' clothes, toys, books, you name it. She hallucinates twice. Once she saw Malia, who at first called for help but later demanded Rain to kill herself, and the second time, it was her mother hanging from the roof. She tries to save her by laying her down on the floor and converses with her spirit, but it soon vanishes. Crying, she tries to leave but finds a crayon on the floor. Feeling more determined, she tries to sneak out, but at that time, Miss McConnell arrives home. She sits down for dinner. As Rain was about to leave, she saw that the basement door was locked. Finding it fishy, she steals the keys and unlocks the door. She was shocked to see Malia there, locked in a cage. As she was about to grab Malia, they heard Miss McConnell's footsteps and decided to hide inside the cage with Malia. Miss McConnell was down to investigate but was startled when she saw Rain. She asked her to come out, but Rain was hesitant. In order to convince her, Miss McConnell promised to help her and not call the police, adding to it that Malia was just her imagination. Not knowing what to believe after her mother's news and the voices in her head, she decided to trust her. Realizing it was a wrong decision when Miss McConnell was about to attack her, Caleb came to the rescue and tackled Miss McConnell down. This gives Rain and Malia a chance to escape. The girls run away from the house. John was shocked to see Malia and confirms to Rain about her existence. Police arrived at the scene and Caleb came outside from the garage door, injured. This also helped confirm that Caleb was real too. John apologized for all the acquisitions he made in the past and told her how proud he was of her. Caleb agreed on a date with Rain as he was taken away to the hospital. Weeks have passed after that incident. Rain was recovering. She could differentiate between what's real and what's in her imagination. John and she were in a good place now. With a good mindset, she has stopped having hallucinations. And on a bright sunny day, they decided to visit Michelle's grave together. After returning home, Rain decides to sleep. She sees a vision of Michelle on her bed, next to her, hugging her. It was a form of reassurance that her mother would be with her in her heart forever.